I heard it again. The rhythmic creaking from upstairs, the sound of footsteps I'd memorized over 3 months of sleepless nights. 10:30 p.m., right on schedule. My phone lit up with Michael's text. Working late again. Don't wait up. I stared at the message, then at the ceiling. Working late. That's what he'd been calling it for months now. Working late in the apartment directly above our home, in a unit I discovered he'd purchased under an LLC 6 months ago. The same LLC that accidentally sent the property tax bill to my email instead of his. Funny how one misrouted email can unravel an entire life. I'd been the good wife, the understanding partner. When Michael got promoted to senior director at our tech company, I turned down my own advancement to avoid any appearance of conflict. I'd believed him when he said we were building something together, that his success was our success. I remembered our first date at that little Italian place in River North. He'd looked at me with such intensity, told me I was different from anyone he'd ever met, said he wanted to build a life with someone real, someone genuine. I'd believed every word. That version of Michael felt like a stranger now. The ceiling creaked again. I picked up my laptop and opened the folder I'd been building. Bank statements showing wire transfers to the upstairs unit. Security camera footage from the lobby showing Michael entering with Lily Moore, our colleague, my former friend. Timestamps documenting their pattern. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Sometimes weekends when I was supposedly visiting my sister. I'd watch Lily at work, all bright smiles and innocent questions about my marriage. "How do you and Michael keep things so fresh?" she'd asked me once. I'd actually given her advice. The memory made my stomach turn. But Lily's story was more complicated than I'd initially thought. Last week, I'd learned something that changed everything. Started with a casual conversation with Mrs. Patterson from the 8th floor in the mailroom. "Some people have no shame," she'd muttered, shaking her head at her phone. "Everything okay?" She'd hesitated, then showed me her screen. A neighborhood gossip thread I wasn't part of. The messages made my blood run cold. Lily wasn't just sleeping with my husband. There was Marcus from 12B, David from 7C, even divorced Richard from the penthouse. A pattern of seduction, always targeting men with something to offer. Money, connections, status. "Everyone knows," Mrs. Patterson had whispered. "But who wants to be the one to say something? Her type always finds a way to make you the villain." I'd spent the next 3 days quietly confirming. Coffee with Karen from the gym, who'd caught Lily leaving David's apartment at dawn. A knowing look from the night security guard when I asked about visitor patterns. The puzzle pieces assembled themselves into a picture uglier than I'd imagined. My phone buzzed. "Margaret, my mother-in-law, coming by tomorrow for tea. We need to talk." That message felt like a warning. The next afternoon, Margaret sat on my couch, her designer handbag placed precisely on the cushion beside her. She hadn't touched her tea. "You know," I said simply. She sighed. The sound of someone who'd been caught but wasn't particularly sorry about it. "Emily, dear, I think we should discuss your expectations." "My expectations?" "Michael is a successful man. He has certain needs, pressures you might not understand." The words hung in the air between us like something poisonous. "You're telling me you knew your son was keeping a mistress in the apartment above his wife, and you think I'm the one with unrealistic expectations?" Margaret's expression remained maddeningly calm. "Don't be dramatic. Men like Michael, men who achieve at his level, they need outlets. It's simply how the world works. I thought you were smart enough to understand that." "I'm smart enough to understand betrayal." "Are you?" She leaned forward slightly. "Because a smart woman would recognize what she has. A comfortable life. Financial security, social standing. Many women would be grateful." Something cold settled in my chest. "Get out." "Emily, get out of my home." She stood slowly, gathering her bag with deliberate dignity. At the door, she paused. "You'll regret making this difficult. Michael will always be my son. I'll always choose him. Good to know where everyone stands." The door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded like a declaration of war. I spent that evening finalizing my plan. The building's annual community meeting was in 3 days. a mandatory gathering where the board addressed resident concerns. Usually boring discussions about parking spots and lobby renovations. This year was going to be different. I'd sent the anonymous tip to the building management that morning. Detailed documentation of the second apartment, evidence of Lily's relationship with multiple married residents, concerns about building security and reputation. I'd included just enough to guarantee they'd address it publicly, demand accountability. The board president, stern Mrs. Vanessa Chen, had responded within hours. This matter will be addressed at Wednesday's meeting. Perfect. Wednesday evening arrived with the weight of inevitability. The community room filled with residents, couples, singles, the usual crowd that showed up out of obligation or boredom. I saw Karen and Mrs. Patterson exchange glances when they spotted me. They knew something was coming. Michael slid into the seat beside me, late as always. Sorry, got held up. I'm sure. He didn't catch the edge in my voice, too busy checking his phone. Probably texting Lily, who I'd spotted entering 10 minutes earlier, sitting across the room with calculated nonchalance. She wore a tight red dress, her posture screaming confidence. Several wives shot her dark looks. Mrs. Chen called the meeting to order, droning through standard updates. Then her expression shifted, turned serious. We have a sensitive matter to address. We've received concerning reports about misconduct within our building community. Specifically, allegations regarding inappropriate relationships and possible violations of our community standards. The room went silent. Michael's hand tightened on his phone. Mrs. Chen continued, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. We have documentation that one of our residents has been conducting multiple affairs with married residents, creating a hostile environment. Additionally, we've discovered that at least one resident has been maintaining a second apartment without proper disclosure, violating our owner occupancy policies. Michael's face drained of color. Lily's confidence faltered just slightly. Michael Carter, Mrs. Chen said, looking directly at my husband. You're listed as the owner of Unit 14B, which you've been occupying with a non-resident guest while maintaining your primary residence in 12B with your wife. Can you explain this arrangement? Every head in the room turned toward us. Michael's mouth opened, closed. This is a private matter. Not when it violates building policies and creates disruption in our community. Lily stood abruptly, her voice sharp and defiant. This is ridiculous. You're all acting like a bunch of judgmental prudes. What consenting adults do is nobody's business. Mrs. Patterson rose from her seat. Consenting adults? You've been sleeping with my husband. That's on him, not me. Lily's smile was cruel. Maybe if you'd kept him satisfied at home, he wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere. The room erupted. 3 other wives stood, voices rising in anger. Karen pointed at Lily, her voice shaking. You're proud of yourself? Breaking up families, destroying marriages? Lily laughed. Actually laughed. I didn't break anything that wasn't already broken. You want to blame someone? Blame your pathetic husbands who came crawling to me? You manipulative. Mrs. Patterson lunged forward. It happened faster than anyone could stop. Mrs. Patterson grabbed Lily's arm, yanking her forward. Karen moved in from the other side. Lily shoved back, her nails raking across someone's face. Then more women joined, a blur of anger and humiliation turning physical. Security rushed in, pulling people apart. Lily's perfect appearance was destroyed. Dress torn, hair disheveled, a scratch bleeding on her cheek. She was screaming, calling everyone pathetic, saying they were all jealous. Mrs. Chen's voice cut through the chaos like a whip. Enough, Ms. Moore, you are hereby banned from this building. Security will escort you out immediately. Mr. Carter, you have 30 days to resolve your occupancy violation or face legal action from the HOA. Michael finally found his voice. You can't do this. We absolutely can, and we are. Mrs. Chen's expression was granite. This meeting is adjourned? Security escorted Lily toward the exit, her voice still echoing through the hallway, still defiant, still trying to wound everyone around her. The wives she'd targeted followed, their voices rising again, security barely holding them back from another physical altercation. I stood slowly, gathering my purse. Michael reached for my arm. Emily, please, let me explain. I looked at him, really looked at him. This man I'd loved, trusted, built a life with. Explain what? That you bought an apartment above our home to fuck your mistress? That your mother knew and told me to accept it? That I was supposed to just smile and pretend everything was fine? It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. It's actually worse than what I thought. I stepped back from his touch. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow. Don't come home tonight. I'm changing the locks. You can't. Watch me. Margaret appeared from somewhere in the crowd, her face pale. Emily, let's be reasonable. Reasonable? The laugh that escaped me was harsh. You told me to accept my husband's infidelity because successful men have needs. You chose him over basic human decency. You don't get to talk to me about reasonable. I walked out of that community room with my head high, leaving behind the wreckage of my marriage, my mother-in-law's shocked silence, and Michael's pathetic attempts at explanation. Behind me, I could hear raised voices. Accusations. The sound of a community ripping itself apart over secrets that should never have been kept. The divorce took 4 months. Michael tried to fight it at first, but the evidence was overwhelming. The second apartment, the financial deception, the community scandal, even his expensive lawyers couldn't spin it in his favor. His reputation at work collapsed when HR launched an investigation into his relationship with Lily, who'd been fired within a week of the community meeting. Turned out sleeping with multiple colleagues violated several company policies. Margaret tried reaching out twice. I never responded. She'd made her choice clear. I didn't need family who valued appearances over integrity. The property settlement was generous. Half of everything, including the equity in both apartments. I sold my half of the upstairs unit immediately, used the money as a down payment on a beautiful condo in a different building, a place with floor-to-ceiling windows and a balcony facing the lake. I heard through the grapevine that Lily had moved to another city. Apparently, her reputation followed her. The internet age makes it hard to outrun scandal. Several wives from our building had been very thorough in their documentation. Michael still worked at the company, but transferred to a different division. We never crossed paths. I'd gotten my own promotion, the one I'd turned down before, and was thriving in ways I hadn't allowed myself to imagine during those years of playing the supportive wife. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I stood on my new balcony watching the sunrise paint the Chicago skyline in shades of gold and pink. The lake stretched out before me, infinite and clean and mine. My phone buzzed with a message from Karen. Brunch Sunday, the girls want to celebrate your new place. I smiled. The girls, a group of women who'd bonded through betrayal and come out stronger. We'd supported each other through divorces, career changes, the messy process of rebuilding. They were my chosen family now. I thought about the woman I'd been a year ago. Trusting, accommodating, willing to make myself smaller to fit into someone else's definition of a good wife. She felt like a stranger now. Maybe she'd always been a performance, a role I'd played because I'd thought that's what love required. I knew better now. Love didn't require self-erasure. It didn't demand silence in the face of betrayal. Real love, the kind worth having, asked for honesty, respect, courage. The morning light caught the glass of my new windows, turning them into mirrors of pure possibility. I'd learned an important truth through all of this. Some ceilings are meant to be broken through, not lived under. I'd spent too long listening to footsteps above me, wondering what secrets were being kept, trying to ignore what I knew in my bones to be true. Never again. The sun climbed higher, burning away the last shadows of doubt. I lifted my coffee cup to the skyline, to the future, to the woman I'd become through fire and truth. Here's to breaking ceilings, I said to the morning, and to never looking up again. My phone buzzed again, work email, a new project proposal, an opportunity to lead. I opened it, reading through the details with growing excitement. This was my life now, my choices, my terms, my happiness. And I was just getting started. The city spread out before me like a promise, full of possibility and second chances. I'd walked through betrayal and come out the other side whole, stronger, free. Somewhere across town, Michael was probably waking up in his half-empty apartment, facing another day of whispers and damaged reputation. Margaret was likely still trying to understand how her protection backfired so spectacularly. Lily was rebuilding in a new city, carrying her patterns with her. I didn't wish them harm. I didn't wish them anything at all. They were simply part of a chapter I'd closed, a story I'd survived and learned from. The truth had found its way to the light, just like I'd known it would. And I'd found my way to something better than the life I'd been settling for. I'd found myself. I took another sip of coffee, feeling the warmth spread through me, and smiled at the endless sky. This was what happy looked like. Not perfect, not without scars, but real and mine and worth every difficult step it took to get here. The ceiling above me now was nothing but open sky, and I was finally, truly free.